Hi, students. Sorry I can't be with you today, but we're going to continue working on what we worked on yesterday. So if you recall, yesterday we worked on color coding and editing students' work and giving them feedback for how they could improve. So to use number one as an example, we colored their claim red where they answered where they answered the question. We color coded their evidence blue, and then their evidence was the data that they used to explain their thinking. And then finally we colored their reasoning green, and their reasoning was sort of their BAM science or their because science, where they explain the science behind their claim. So we had some feedback for this student. First of all, we thought that they should say what the substances are. We thought they used evidence that wasn't really evidence. And we thought that their evidence was a little bit confusing to read. And then finally, we thought they had good reasoning because they mentioned properties, but definitely not enough. So we would have liked that they had told us more information. So now I'm going to flip back and edit my own work. Some of you may have done this yesterday, but that's going to be your first task today. So using your colored pencils, you'll flip back to page 66 and find your own writing. Here's mine. And I'm going to use red and underline my claim. My claim is where I answered the question, does acid rain make new substances? I definitely answered the question because I said yes. Clearly I need to improve my claim, but I'm going to come back to that later. Next, I'm going to find my evidence, and I'm going to highlight my evidence or underline my evidence in blue. And when I look at my writing, I notice that I'm not seeing any data from the data table. So if there's no data from the data table, then I don't have any evidence. So I'm just going to leave that alone. And finally, I'm going to look for my reasoning. And my reasoning is when I describe the science. Now I'm noticing a lot of properties listed here. I noticed that I talked about density, color, melting point, properties, substances, characteristics, substances. This all sounds a lot like I'm explaining the science. So I think I have pretty good reasoning. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to underline that the green stuff has a different density, color, melting point than the copper. And these are all properties. And when properties are different, it has to be a different substance because properties are unique characteristics used to tell two substances apart. So now I'm going to see if I used any transitions and circle those or highlight those. So I noticed that I have one transition, and it's because that's a great transition, but it's the only one I have. So maybe I could add a few more when I improve my writing. So your job today is going to be to type this same paragraph, only better. So I'm going to flip over to Classroom, and here in Classroom is Activity 2 CER, and I'm going to open the Google Doc that goes along with the assignment, and in this space below, I'm going to improve my paragraph. Now for me, if I look back at what I had before, I thought I really rocked the reasoning. So instead of retyping it, or instead of rewriting it, I'm just going to type it in the space. So really I have to focus on my claim because yes is not a detailed enough claim, and including evidence from the data table to improve my writing. So I'm going to flip back over to this page and I'm just going to get started. And first of all, I know that yes is not a good claim, so I'm going to add the acid rain did make a new substance. And I just took this question and rearranged the words to say what I think. Then I'm going to use data from the data table as evidence. And I know that numbers are sometimes the best kind of evidence, and also things that I can see. So the thing I noticed first was the color. I might talk about how the color is different. I'm also going to add that the density was different. So I'm going to say the density of the copper was, and I'm going to enter in the actual number. I'm also going to include information about the density and the melting point of the substances before and after I exposed it to acid. And then finally, I'm just going to copy in my reasoning, and I think I will have an excellent paragraph. So that's your job for today. And if you notice here, you can listen to music while you work as long as it's a distraction. And when you finish, you can have free time. But this paragraph is due at the end of class today, and I'll be able to judge how much work you got done and how seriously you took this activity based on the paragraph I see. Thanks. Have a great day.